But now, let's talk about what is going on in the world of transfers. And the omnipresent, hardworking Mr. Crook joins us live. Alex, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Had an enjoyable night at Southampton last night, probably more enjoyable than Thomas Tuchel. And we should start with Chelsea, actually, because Tuchel, as you've been discussing, was quite forthright in his opinions of his Chelsea players and their perceived lack of mental toughness last night. He was also quite forthright in their lack of squad depth. He told me that it was a, quote, crazy situation that Chelsea only had 16 players in training the day before that defeat at St Mary's. And he clearly wants reinforcements between now and 11 o'clock tomorrow. One of those reinforcements is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Talks ongoing between Chelsea and Barcelona. I don't believe this one is particularly close at this moment in time, but Chelsea really pushing on behalf of Tuchel to get it done. They need that number 9, don't they, that focal point up front. They really struggled with that last night.
I mean, Aubameyang, if what we believe is true, had an extremely horrendous. I'm just getting this up here. I'm getting more. I'm getting more information on this now. Actually, Alex, it's now being reported this lunchtime that Aubameyang reportedly had his jaw broken when four-armed burglars broke into his house over the weekend. He took one in the chin with an iron bar. It's been reported this lunchtime. So he's in a sorry state, and that, as you could say, as you're suggesting, may end up scuppering any move for him.
Yeah, and that's why there's also the talk of maybe a loan deal as opposed to a permanent transfer. But listen, it's a horrendous situation that Aubameyang went through. Clearly, nobody deserves that. But I think in terms of alternative options for Chelsea when it comes to looking for that number 9, they're thin on the ground, aren't they? We know they were desperate to sign Robert Lewandowski earlier in the window, but he was always going to Barcelona. I think if they don't get someone in, it's difficult to see Chelsea, despite what Danny was saying earlier, challenging for the Premier League or the Champions League. You need the out-and-out striker for me.
I didn't say they were going to challenge for the Premier League. I said they're going to close the gap and be there or thereabouts 3/4 of the way through the season, maybe. I don't think they've got enough to bridge the 19-point gap, but I certainly think they'll be better. But what about Brozier? Do you not think he can do it? Do you not think he's capable?
I'm not sure that Thomas Tuchel has complete faith in him. They look better when he came on last night. I have to say that. He provided that physical presence, put himself around, probably had a bit of a point to prove against his former loan club. But he's also had fitness issues, hasn't he, this pre-season? So it's a gamble, I think, if you go into the season once the window closes with just Armando Brozier as your only real out-and-out number 9. Kai Havertz, for me, is really struggling for confidence at the moment. He was missing in action last night.
Okay, so what we're hearing about young James Garner, Danny was telling us a bit more about him earlier on. What's the latest on him this lunchtime, Alex?
Looks like Everton are winning the race for him. We know that Southampton and Nottingham Forest have both made inquiries since it became clear, actually, that Manchester United were willing to cash in on a player who did so well on loan at Forest last season. £15 million is the fee that has been touted to me this lunchtime. A lot of Manchester United fans are unhappy about this. There's always an emotional attachment when a player comes through your ranks and you sell him. But with the greatest respect in the world, when you look at the calibre of clubs that are chasing him, Everton, Forest, who I've mentioned, and Southampton, is that a player who is going to fit into Manchester United's first team plans if they really want to be talked about as Big Four contenders? I'm not convinced.
No, I understand, but I think if you had an abundance of talent in the middle of United midfield, you'd maybe have a point. But with some of the midfielders they've got there and the discontent around some of those, it would have been nice to see him maybe have a go. But you know, they see him every day, don't they? But I thought he was tremendous at Forest last season.
Alex, I was in Glasgow at the weekend and they would ask me, how do you think Calvin Bassey will do at Ajax? Well, he's doing all right. And how do you think Joe Aribo will get on at Southampton? He's doing all right. Are we hearing that there is movement at Southampton this morning, but a couple out of that club?
Yeah, I think they need to get a couple out the door before they can make the additional signings that they want. They're chasing 2 players, as I understand it, between now and 11 o'clock tomorrow. We know that one of those is Cody Gakpo, the winger from PSV Eindhoven. That would be a really exciting signing for them. But as new faces come through the door, old faces inevitably have to depart. One of them, I think Southampton fans will be sad to see go, is Oriol Romeu. Really good servant for them. 7 years he's been at the football club, but he's got a decent offer on the table from Girona over in Spain. There was a possibility last night that this deal could be scuppered because Romeo Lavia, who scored a great goal against Chelsea, picked up a hamstring injury. Maybe Southampton were thinking twice about letting Romeu leave, but I think they want to be respectful to someone who's been a really loyal servant. So I think that will happen. And Jan Bednarek, a couple of clubs chasing him. I told you last week about Aston Villa looking to sign him to replace the injured Diego Carlos. West Ham also showing a bit of interest in the Polish international. That could be dependent on Craig Dawson leaving the London Stadium.
Okay.
He's got interest from Wolves, amongst others, but I think West Ham want to keep him. So at the moment, I'd still say Bednarek more likely to end up at Aston Villa.
Alex, I'm hoping that some Evertonians aren't jumping the gun. A lot of them are messaging this lunchtime saying, "See, told you, we're keeping Anthony Gordon. We're keeping Anthony Gordon." Are they right to think that? Now, before you give me your update on him, Lampard was asked about Gordon last night and asked that very question. Gordon, does he stay? You confident?
I'm very confident. Very confident. And you saw the reasons why in the last 2 games, because he's our player. He's come through. He's a very good player. He's going to get better and better. And adding goals to his game is the first step of that, and that's the hardest step. Anthony's too important a player. I think he showed his worth in the last 2 games. We've got 2 days now to go, so what good would it do us to do anything with Anthony? You know, clearly because of the interest that's been in him, it's because he's a top player, and that's why we're so keen to keep him.
Alex Crook, does he stay?
I think he does. You know, I think when a manager comes out that strongly and says very confident of keeping him 24 hours before the window closes, I think he's been given the nod from the Everton hierarchy. They won't sell. I've got to say his performances in the last 2 games have made it very difficult if Everton were willing to sanction that move to Chelsea, because he's been just about their best player, just about their shining hope. And I believe that Frank Lampard has also said that he set a deadline for when Chelsea would have to get the deal done by. That deadline has elapsed, I think. So, yeah, it looks like Anthony Gordon will stay at Goodison Park.
Is that the best thing for him, Danny?
Yeah. I said this previously. I understand the attraction in wanting to sign him because he's a super talent. I also understood his head being turned a little bit, Champions League, pushing for the club that wants to win trophies. But his development will be better playing week in, week out in this league. And he is a great talent. He's going to get better by having experience coming up against top players week in, week out, not bits off the bench here and there. So I'm pleased for Everton that he's staying.
Mr. Crook, as you know, we are based in the 17th floor in the News Building at London Bridge, hence we are in London. Up in Manchester, we understand Ten Hag will be speaking very shortly. What's he expected to say, if anything, about Ronaldo?
Well, I've had a message about half an hour ago from a usually reliable source suggesting to me that Ten Hag will come out and confirm that Cristiano Ronaldo stays at Manchester United. We know that his advisors have been desperately searching for a club in one of the top European leagues, a Champions League club, to take their client. Doesn't look like anybody has been forthcoming. I was told actually the weekend that certain members of the Manchester United hierarchy at board level were, quote, desperate to see Ronaldo leave this window. Doesn't look like it will happen. And it will be fascinating now, I think, to see how Ten Hag finds a role for him in the team, because this high-intensity football that we've seen from Manchester United, particularly that win against Liverpool, doesn't really suit Ronaldo. So let's see what happens there. Let's see what Ten Hag says this lunchtime. Just another bit of breaking news, actually, not necessarily transfer-related, but this is a real feel-good story. David Brooks, Welsh international, is playing for Bournemouth's development squad this afternoon. That will be his first competitive football, if you like, since recovering from cancer. So that's a really heartwarming story this lunchtime.
Oh, good news about him. Alex, thank you very much indeed for that. Simon, I mean, at the time, we've spoken about Ronaldo before. One club that was mentioned, Borussia Dortmund, it might end up at Borussia Dortmund. Vachka, Borussia Dortmund said, no, not according to us, no. We've no intention of getting Ronaldo in. I wonder what's happened there.
Reality check, perhaps. Perhaps there isn't as many people out there that are prepared to pick up the cost implications and the other implications of Ronaldo. So maybe all roads lead back to a slightly more contrite, slightly more productive Ronaldo within the mix of being a senior pro under the revolution that I am dubious that Ten Hag will have. But maybe he has won a battle.
I think it's going to be very difficult having him around not playing. I think that'll be difficult.
I mean, the writing's on the wall then, isn't it? Because he's not going to play him. He's made that clear. He's not going to play him in every game. Far from it.
He's not going to play in every game.
And he's the boss.
You know, so his body language isn't good when he doesn't play. Even when he comes on the pitch, he looks a bit agitated because he's never done it. Very hard for someone who's been one of the best players ever lived and played all the minutes of every game whenever he wants to play, to now sitting on the bench watching from afar, and his ego will be saying, how is he playing ahead of me? Forget his age, it's just the ego of a footballer. I'll tell you what, Simon.
Danny, a year to the day since he came back.
Yeah, but I would say this. If he's that desperate to play every week, and especially Champions League. I know he's got a comfortable, about 15 goals out of Messi, I think he is, 15, 16. But that's he wants to keep that all-time greatest goal scorer in Europe, Champions League. What if he was to say to United, forget the rest of my money for the next 10 months? Because what they got to pay him another 10. He's got a year later, so 11 months' money. I know it's a lot, but what if he says,
release me?
Release me. I'll call it a day on the money.
You don't think that conversation might have happened?
Well, I just can't see anyone at United. Well, I'd be surprised United saying, okay, fine. Surely
Ronaldo and all this talk about Ronaldo. I was at Fulham last night. I remember being at Craven Cottage years ago when you were playing for Fulham and you beat United with Ronaldo in the team.
That's true.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And you gave it the big one. He gave it the big one afterwards, Simon. Said, Danny, do you want to have a quick chat with me for Sky?
Get lost.
And he's like, I'd
tell
like
you
to,
what,
but I'm going to Dubai later. I was like,
well,
what?
we were having a break, for the first time in a long time. But actually, the bit I remember about that, the bit I remember about that game, he was fuming, Ronaldo.
He was,
and there's nothing wrong. Bad loser, I get it. Fine.
I remember.
And he lunged in. He went over the ball on me, but he didn't catch me. And I've never tried to stitch anyone up in my life, so he didn't get. As he got up, I just went to shake his hands, say don't worry about it, which is easy when you're winning.
Sniffing a little lick.
No, but we're winning, aren't we?
I'm just. Did you try and get an autograph? Ask him for his shirt afterwards.
No, I did not.
What's the matter with you? You should have kicked him up the jacksy. He tried to do you.
It was fine, Cristiano.
Do you know
don't
what?
worry.
He flipped
Did
me
you
off.
hurt yourself on the way down as you tried to do me?
He just completely ignored me. So I thought, you know what?
Yeah. Just like you ignored me.
Next time.
Well, that's understandable.
That. I'm going to Dubai.
Well, Moose was there.
All right.
Oh, absolutely. You'll learn more from Moose.
Cutting edge of journalism.
Well, he asks better questions.
He knows what he's talking about.
Of course he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, fair enough. It was your prerogative. I've never actually got over it.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.